Well, welcome to Boomer Babes Life Travel, the podcast. My name is Jaynie Morris-Riggs, founder and creator of fun at Boomer Babes Life, our global community for women over 50. And it's fabulous to have your company once again as we discover more exciting info on all things travel. Haven't heard our podcast before? Make sure you subscribe. Go to boomerbabeslife.com, hit the subscribe button there, go to the podcast section. You'll see all of the previous podcasts that we've had for Boom Babes Life Travel. But today we have once again the gorgeous, fabulous Christa Kinnear from Phil Hoffman Travel, Boomer Babes Life Travel Partners. Christa, how are you?
I'm very good, and I'm going to say this is Christa Kinnear, maker of GrandParents Fun last week at the Gold Coast.
And you did, and that's why we wanted to focus on that on our podcast today, because our podcast is all about traveling with the grandkids. Now, you had a fabulous time when you were up at the Gold Coast in Queensland and Australia, didn't you?
Absolutely. I forgot how beautiful the Gold Coast is. Traveling in, what month are we in? September was absolutely ideal. If you're traveling with grandchildren, it doesn't seem to be a critical part of the year, of course, depending on how old they were, and ours was 6 and 9. So a really, really good time. There's no queues. The weather was perfect. And so all in all, a really fabulous time was had by everybody.
Now, traveling with the grandkids is becoming more and more it's more and more frequent, more and more popular is the word that I'm looking for, because, you know, baby boomers, of which we're not. Boomer Babes Life is all about women over 50. So a lot of our girls are not baby boomers, but specifically about baby boomers, because they're coming into they're retired or they're just about to be retired. Taking the grandkids away seems to be far more popular. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Christa, off the cuff, we haven't talked about this, so off the cuff, but I know you'll have the answer, is what I've heard from some of my boomer babes in the last week when we've been talking about this is that a lot of them are actually taking the grandkids without the parents.
Easily so. I did have my children with me, but they suggested that next time I might like to take them on my own, not because they didn't trust me, but because they wanted to have a holiday as well. And certainly a lot of people I do know, parents might be working, so it gives them a lovely holiday, a stay vacation at home. And I would gladly take my grandkids away because I can afford it maybe a little bit better than them, or I might have the time available for them. And there's so many different options that you can travel with your grandchildren.
Now, let's talk about that. Some of the overseas options that are currently most popular and quite exciting to take grandkids on.
Yep, there's any number of cruise ships that have amazing facilities, flow rides, slides, water slides, lots of activities. In fact, teenage camps and everything on board the cruise ship. So that is one international option. And one that's just come up in my specials this week, which I'll certainly send through to you, is Singapore. Now, Singapore, one flight ex-Adelaide, it's not too long compared to some over the international flights. And we've got a great deal on Sentosa Island. Now, Sentosa Island has beautiful resorts. There's a lovely 5-star resort where they have lots of kids' activities, and they have Universal Studios in Singapore. So that is lovely on its own. But Singapore has the beautiful gardens, so if they want to have a look at the beautiful orchids, but they have also one of the best zoos in this part of our hemisphere, so you can go during the daytime and have interaction with the orangutans, or in the evening where it's a bit spookier, where you go on a night train through the zoo. So everything, there's so many packages that you can get. I've been watching friends of mine up in Bali having an absolutely magnificent time. Bali has something to offer for everybody, but definitely the Singapore Sentosa Island, that's something very much on my list. A little bit further up, we've got Hong Kong, And Hong Kong, okay, they've got a few little traumas going on at the moment, but they also have an amazing Disneyland, which is 15 minutes out of Hong Kong. So that's beautiful. Shanghai. From Shanghai, you've got cruise ships with go-karts and sports cars and everything on them. So, and also with the cruise ships, you know, everything's included on board. So that's a good budgeting thing for us grandparents.
I think with some of those are fabulous options, and with Boomer Babes from all over the world, all of these different options can also be tagged on to extra trips. Like you mentioned with your kids who said, well, Mum, this was a fabulous holiday, but so now that we've tested you out with the kids, you can take them next time. Here's a thought for our listeners. How about planning that much wanted trip and time on your own with the kids? Like go to Singapore, for instance, wherever you are, wherever you live in the world, go to Singapore, have that time with your kids, because you're absolutely right. And Singapore is I've spent a lot of time in Singapore, Christa, and to me, it's one of the most safest, cleanest, nicest place. Favorite. And for those of you who haven't been to Singapore yet, let me tell you, as soon as you get off the plane, even in the terminal, it's almost as if you're already in some sort of Disney World because isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah,
it is. And so think of this, listeners. Have your time there in Singapore with your grandkids, and then plan for your kids to be having their little holiday, and then meet you at another destination to pick the kids up. How about that, Christa?
Could be absolutely fantastic. And for the people who are overseas that are perhaps and hopefully listening, I have to say I was so proud of Australia. When we went into Dreamworld, they've got this fabulous new ride/simulator that you sit on, and you feel like you're in a helicopter, and it flies all over Australia. So it's a 4D. You may get a little wet, but you get to see Adelaide vineyards, the Grampians, the rainforest, all in one snapshot ride, and the koalas and everything at Dreamworld. I was super impressed what Dreamworld are doing for the international guests.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that fabulous? And when we take our kids with us, when we take our grandkids, can I just ask you this? When we're talking international, it's really important to make sure that when we're talking to our kids about taking our grandkids, that we tick off all the important things like their own passports and their own travel insurance and things like that. We need that, don't we?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. You would never leave home without that. And we, as you know, give you some special deals on the travel insurance as well. Plus, we always have a hint in our documents that we hand out. We have copies of passports and every ticket item in there. But also keep in mind that you should have a letter from from the parents, especially if you're traveling international, to say, yes, I'm Christa Kinnear, and I release my children to their grandmother, etc. So you've got a legal document with you that should anyone query where you're off to, and anything that the children might have, if they've got nut allergies, everything needs to be recorded, and maybe a letter from their doctor if there's any medical requirements. But easy in Australia, but definitely when you're traveling overseas, just take those few extra precautions with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about, there's a couple of different little places that you've been talking to me about off air that I'd really like us to touch on today, to spark the interest of our listeners and our audience, and, you know, to maybe inspire them of different places where they may not have thought that they could actually take the grandkids. Now, the Norfolk apartments. Now, talk to me about that.
Right, we stayed at two places, and I'll just backtrack to the first place, if you don't mind. We went to Turtle Beach Resort, which was beautiful, all water slides. They're very clever there. They've got an amazing restaurant that will serve wine if you like, or I had a cappuccino, and you've got a viewing point to watch the children right there in all the water slides. So I did that for the grandkids, and then we shifted to Norfolk apartments, Norfolk luxury apartments. They were such a beautiful find. They were at Main Beach, which is not quite in the action of Surfers Paradise, but a $6 cab fare, or you could walk in. What that meant is we had some beach time in an area that isn't overrun. A 3-bedroom luxury apartment, so we could have our breakfast, everyone at leisure. We'd go for a walk across the road straight onto the beach, which had lifesavers, and then a little walk into town so we could experience Friday night markets. And then, as I said, I had my children with me, so I left them in town. They had a night out on town, and the grandkids and I came back. So they're beautiful, beautiful apartments.
So it's always a good option whenever, once the destination has been chosen, then to really talk to you about the accommodation side.
Absolutely.
And apartments really seems to be a really good option, and so many destinations cater for that now too, don't they?
It gives you so much more room, especially when you're traveling with children. They can spread out, they can have their fun, and you're not as restricted as you might be in a hotel. And
go ahead. No.
The other thing that I found really important is make sure, as we did, I bought the passes for Movie World, Sea World, Wet and Wild, but I didn't for Dream World because I didn't think we would have time. So whilst the children were in the queue waiting for the tickets, the lady said, look, the best thing is it's cheaper to pre-buy them, as I did for the others, online. So that's something we don't expect your clients to deal with. We can do all of that for you. So make sure you've got all the tickets that you want to before you go, so that when you're in that queue, the grandies aren't saying, what are we waiting for? All done. Yeah.
And it's always a good idea when you're traveling with children, be they your own, or in this situation we're talking specifically about grandkids with Christa Kinnear from Phil Hoffman Travel. Of course, Phil Hoffman Travel are our official and exclusive partners for Boomer Babes Life Travel. So when you're traveling when you're flying with children, it's always a good idea to, before you fly, perhaps select kids' meals for the children?
Yes, the kids' meals are fantastic, and they come before the adults do, so you can set them all up. They also usually have kids' packs, so there's colouring in pencils, depends on who you go with. And a lot of the airlines now are offering streaming, so free Wi-Fi. So if the children do have their own tablets, as they all seem to now, they can be accessing their own games if they want to while they're flying. So lots of little things that we're happy to discuss with you with the pre-planning that you mightn't even think of.
I think it's really exciting. Now, you know that I'm always #jealous much of you, Christa, because I am yet to have grandchildren, which, although somebody suggested to me the other day, I think you're going to find this year is going to be the year. Well, I don't know about that, so I'm going to have to adopt. But having said that, I can't wait for grandchildren, because I'm going to be doing exactly what you do now. And I think it's really exciting that we can explore all the different options and also take the fear out of destinations outside of just in the local vicinity of where we live, because every destination around the world now caters for children, or most of them do. If they don't, they say they're adults only, but most of them do, including the cruise ships, which really cater for children. So it really takes the fear out of it for us grandies to take the kids with us, which I think is really exciting. And so when any of our audience wants to explore this and they contact you, Christa, you and your team will be able to really drill down on what they need and to help them with extra special bonuses and things, won't you?
Absolutely, especially with the bonuses. And it depends where they're going, because it is important to discuss what your last holiday is, what you liked it, what you didn't like it. It's no point just sending them to where I've been. when they might have quite different expectations. So we work with you, we take all the pain out, you give us the ideas, we'll put it on paper, and then we can review it at any time as well.
It's fantastic. I'm excited. I think I'm going to have to, I think I'm just going to have to come with you with your grandchildren, Christa.
I was waiting for that. My favourite bucket list now with grandchildren, should I win the lottery, would be Africa. There's an amazing company there. Could you even imagine taking your grandchildren and your children and visiting Africa in friendly, children-friendly resorts? Out of this world. I can only dream of it at the moment.
Well, you can adopt me to come with you as a second grandparent there. That's easy fix for you and I. Christa, as always, absolutely fabulous talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today again with these exciting, insightful ideas for everyone as far as traveling with your kids is concerned. Now, remember, if you're interested in finding out more information here, just go to our boomerbabeslife.com website. Go to the travel section. You'll see everything there that Christa and I are talking about. You'll also go to the travel podcasts on our website, subscribe, listen to all the other fabulous Boomer Babes Life travel podcasts that we've already done, and the ones that you'll never miss out on in the future that we actually do. Now, as Christa mentioned before, when you contact, and we have all the contact details below the podcast now, so when you contact Christa and her team to find out more and to book your next fabulous travel experiences, make sure that you say that you heard all about it and you heard us at Boomer Babes Life Travel. By doing that, that will flag that you are a Boomer Babes Life listener, and you will get extra special attention and perhaps some extra special bonuses too, won't they, Christa?
They certainly will.
So make sure you do that. All the information is below the podcast that you're listening to now. I'm Jaynie Morris-Riggs, founder and creator of fun at Boomer Babes Life, our global community for women over 50. Wishing you an absolutely fabulous day, and thank you for joining us on today's Boomer Babes Life Travel podcast.